Hello, this is the Bible in Fewer Words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 134, 1 Kings, chapters 5 through 9. If you enjoy this podcast and the Skeptic's Annotated Bible website, consider supporting us at patreon.com/BFW. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Carol.
Steve, we're doing 5 chapters today.
That's right.
It seems like a lot.
Yeah, but I think we can do it.
Okay, let's just dive in.
Okay.
Chapter 5. When Hiram, the king of Tyre, heard that Solomon was king, he sent his servants to him, since Hiram was always a lover of David. A lover of David.
Yeah, that's a phrase that the Bible uses, and so I kind of stuck with it.
That's very descriptive.
I think it really just means friend. He liked David. You know, he knew David and he liked him. And so Solomon's his son, so he's kind of reaching out to him saying, "Hi, I liked your dad."
Okay.
Okay, verse 2. Solomon sent a message to Hiram saying, "I'm going to build a house for God, and I'll need some lumber. Send me some trees from Lebanon. I'll pay your workers whatever you ask."
Hiram sent a message to Solomon saying, "I'll send you cedar and fir. For payment, I ask that you feed my household."
Cedars of Lebanon. They're famous for their cedars. So he's got a lot of them, and he's going to provide them for...
the houses that Solomon's going to build.
That's right.
So Hiram gave Solomon all the cedar and fir trees that he could possibly want. God gave Solomon wisdom, and there was peace between Solomon and Hiram. Verse 13. Solomon's workforce consisted of 30,000 men. 10,000 were sent to Lebanon, with the remaining 20 at home, alternating month by month.
There were also 70,000 carriers, 80,000 stonecutters, and 3,300 supervisors.
That is quite a crew there.
That is almost 200,000 people that are working on these houses.
So chapter 6. Solomon began to build God's house in the 4th year of his reign, 480 years after the Israelites left Egypt. God's house was 60 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 30 cubits tall. Remind me how long a cubit is?
Cubit is about 18 inches.
Okay, so if the ceilings were 30 cubits tall,
yeah,
it'd be
like 45 feet.
That's a big house for God, for a single guy.
Yeah, it is. Anyway, in verse 38, it says that it took Solomon 7 years to build God's house.
With all those guys, it took 7 years.
Yeah. And you notice that I skipped from verse 2 to verse 38 here.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Because it gives all the details of the construction. And so if you're interested in that, then you can read that.
Yes.
In chapter 6.
Okay.
We're going to go on to chapter 7. Verse 1. Solomon spent 13 years building his own house. So you notice that?
Yes.
It's been almost twice as long to build his own house as he did God's.
And his was bigger, but not that much bigger.
A lot bigger, actually. We'll see.
His house was 100 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits tall.
So it's the same height, ceiling, but it has 4 times the floor space.
Oh, yes.
So it's a much bigger house than God's.
He has many wives.
He does. We'll find out how many coming up in the next episode, I think.
He made a round molten sea, 10 cubits in diameter and 30 cubits in circumference. Are we talking about an above-ground pool?
Yeah, we are.
Inside his house?
You know, I don't know where it is. That's a good question. Because we're talking here about Solomon's house. Mm-hmm. And I picture this as being more associated with the temple. You know?
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the only good reason that you would have such a big pool... Well, I can't think of any reason you'd have such a big pool, except for to swim in.
Yes.
That would be fun.
Kind of a hot tub with your friends.
Yeah, it could be, yeah.
A lot of friends.
But I don't think it's for either of those purposes. Maybe, but I've seen it suggested that it's for the priests to wash their hands. You know, they have to wash up.
Well, yes,
right?
but you could have just like a little trickle faucet.
Yeah, it's kind of overdone, isn't it? You don't need all that.
Yeah, no, you don't.
But whatever it was, that's what it was. So the molten sea thing is a weird expression too. I don't know exactly what that is because it really just seems like it's a big bowl of water.
Yeah.
Maybe it's molten because it was molten when it was poured into a mold or something. I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it stood on 12 oxen with 3 facing north, south, east, and west. So those are also molten, I think.
Yeah.
They were cast.
Mm-hmm. It held 2,000 baths.
I want to take baths in there.
And baths is kind of what you think. It actually turns out to be about 22 liters.
Oh, really? Like a clawfoot tub or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds like a reasonable bath size. And so it had 2,000 of those baths in there.
Holy moly. All right, chapter 8. Solomon called all the men of Israel to witness the ark being carried into the tabernacle of the temple. So can I just ask, so the temple is the actual building outside and the walls, we had the walls dimensions there and how tall it was, right?
Yeah.
And then a tabernacle is kind of like the front of the building, like inside the front of the building.
I think so. And then we're going to have the ark, which is the thing that they've been carrying around for so long.
Yes, the ark gave
causing
some
all kinds
towns,
of trouble.
yes.
Right?
Hemorrhoids.
There's like 50,000 people died because they looked in it and they had all the hemorrhoids and stuff. Anyway, they're going to finally get that ark.
In a place.
A home for that ark. It's going to go into the temple.
So the ark is in the tabernacle, which is in the temple.
Yep.
Okay.
When it was brought into the temple, Solomon killed more animals than could be numbered.
Verse 9. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses put in at Horeb. I know God doesn't really live somewhere, but isn't God in there also?
You know, it always seemed to me like he sat on it.
Oh, you're right. There's a seat.
Yeah, there's a seat. Yeah, and little horns there. And I don't know.
When the priests brought the ark into the temple, a cloud filled the house of the Lord so that the priests could not see. So, a bunch of smoke.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then Solomon spoke to the people, saying, God said he would dwell in darkness, but I've built a house for God to live in.
He's just going to fill it up with smoke.
Yeah.
When God causes a drought by shutting up heaven to punish people for sinning, they can make it rain again by praying towards the temple.
It's amazing, though, isn't it, that you can stop a drought
Yeah.
just by praying toward the temple.
Yeah.
That's good to keep in mind.
So you don't have to be close by. You could just be praying.
Anywhere on earth.
Yeah.
Just figure out where the temple is, kind of like Muslims do with Mecca,
Uh-huh.
and pray in that direction.
Abracadabra.
And it'll rain. Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
When God sends famine, disease, mildew, locusts, caterpillars, or war to punish people for sinning, they can make it all stop by praying towards the temple.
So it works for pretty much everything.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, they should have built this temple a long time ago.
Well, of course, the temple's been destroyed. We don't have a temple anymore. So I guess that kind of answers the question why we aren't doing this anymore.
Yes. But with all the horrible things that happened to the people when they were leaving Egypt. Hey, first thing, we're going to build a temple.
Oh, well, yeah, it's kind of hard to build a temple while you're traveling.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah. If you sin and God punishes you by allowing your enemies to capture you, you can just pray toward Jerusalem and God will save you from them.
That also is handy.
Yeah, and that might work anytime
Yeah.
because there's still a Jerusalem that we can pray to.
Yeah. When Solomon finished speaking, he dedicated the temple by sacrificing 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep.
120,000 sheep. But I guess God liked it. Chapter 9, verse 1. After Solomon finished building the houses, one for God and one for himself, God and Solomon met again. God said to Solomon,
If you always obey my commandments, like your father David did, then your kingdom will last forever. But if you or your children don't obey me, I'll destroy your land and house and cast you out of my sight.
Okay, that's fair enough. And everyone that passes by this house will hiss and say, Why did God do this to this land and house?
Then they'll answer their own question and say, because they didn't obey their God.
Yeah.
So every time we see that someone has misfortune, they haven't obeyed their God.
Pretty much, yeah. I guess that's the point here. Okay, verse 10. Hiram provided the cedar, fir, and gold that Solomon used to build the 2 houses. To pay him for the building materials, Solomon gave him 20 Galilean cities.
That's a lot of cities.
It is.
But Hiram didn't like the cities that Solomon gave him. He wanted different ones?
Hey, they just didn't like them, yeah. Hiram said, "What are these cities that you gave me?" And he called them the land of Kabul to this day.
What does Kabul mean?
Well, the note in the HarperCollins Study Bible says that it might mean good for nothing. He thought they were good for nothing, I guess. That's why he named them that.
That's a grateful guy. And Hiram gave Solomon 540 talents of gold.
Yeah, and if you do the math on that, that turns out to be 16 metric tons of gold, which would be worth today about $1 billion.
Oh.
But generally, numbers are inflated in the Bible.
Okay.
So I would say that's probably true in this case.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing these 5 chapters with me.
Yeah, so now we've got the temple built. This is the first temple.
Oh, there's going to be more.
There's going to be a second.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, thanks, listeners, for listening. And bye, Steve.
Bye-bye.